Okay, it's Bob Fletcher again here, and we're down at Fishwick Nature Reserve, and we're going to do a tour with the ranger, and we've got Danny down to do the filming, and this is the area we're going to cover, and we're about to set off now to show you some of the more interesting places on Fishwick Nature Reserve.
Yeah, I'm Terry Blackman, I'm the Park Ranger for Preston City Council based at Fishwick Nature Reserve. At the back end of 2012, the Friends of Fishwick and St Matthews applied to the First Transpennine and the Forestry Commission for a green grant. We were successful in getting £1,200, which has allowed us to do some improvements to Common Bank Wood, one of the woodlands in the Fishwick Nature Reserve. Part of that was to pay for timber to make bird boxes and bat boxes, the opening for the bat boxes at the bottom. Children from 4th Fullwood Beavers, Callan Kids Club and Fishwick Rangers have been involved in putting these boxes together, which will be going up soon. The rest of the money was spent on paying for Lancashire Wildlife Trust to bring down teams of volunteers for 3 days of felling non-native trees to create a woodland glade. That encourages some of the understory and ground flora, the flowers that grow on the ground in the woodland. And it also got rid of some of the non-native species to favour some of the oak and ash, etc. And we also bought, I think it was 800 plug plants of things like bluebells, wild garlic, celandines, flowers that you'd expect to see on a woodland floor. So that's been a very good project that's involved F.O.F.S, Preston Council, various children's groups, volunteers from Lancashire Wildlife Trust and other people who come down here volunteering. A wood called Oliver's Wood. This again is one of the names that the children from St Matthews selected. The Oliver refers to Oliver Cromwell because short distance from here, at one of the local, next to one of the local pubs, the Shaw's Arms, the bridge there, Walton Bridge, was the scene of one of a major battle in the Second English Civil War in the 1600s. So the children were learning about Oliver Cromwell, and they came down here. We did some battle reenactment, made a musket, and the children were having a go at loading the musket, putting in, instead of shot, they were using little clay balls that we'd made, and they were seeing how long it would take to fire a musket. I think they were inspired by that visit.
Here it is, number 19 on the map, Oliver's Wood.
So, yep, this has become Oliver's Wood ever since then. Other places we've got from here is a little meadow across the way, one of 7 wildflower meadows at the Nature Reserve. That's called Row Green. That's named after a farm which was just a short distance away, Row Green Farm. Another meadow near here is called Rhubarb Field, and that refers a bit more recent history. In the first half of the 20th century there was a lot of market gardening went on in the area, and one gentleman in his late 80s I was speaking to, who was walking through site, told me that he worked on a farm that grew rhubarb. In those, at the beginning of the 1900s and late 1800s, there was a lot of market gardening went on right on the edge of towns and cities, because there wasn't the transport, there wasn't refrigeration, there wasn't packaging, so the food had to be grown near to the population centres. And information like that we try and get across on some of the notice boards that we have around site. So each of the notice boards, this is a new one that we haven't put any interpretive material on yet, but each of the boards tell you something about where you are, whether that's industrial past, agricultural past. It could be information about what you see now, the wildlife, the flora and fauna. It might be about what all the volunteers are up to at the moment, the conservation tasks that go on. And we try to refresh those notice boards, so just because you've been once, the next time you come, it's not going to be the same. You'll find that there's something new and interesting to look at. And we also display community notices as well, so when Friends of Fishwick and St Matthews are having consultations or events, you'll find information about those on the boards as well. Yeah, what we've got here, this is one of about 7 half plastic drums that we've put in here. This area that we're in the nature reserve was always a damp area, and some of the volunteers put forward the idea of having some small ponds. What we found was that the natural soil here doesn't hold water, and what was happening with the ponds was each year, when we got to around June, July, on what should be the drier months, the ponds were drying out, and that was bad news for quite a few creatures that live in the ponds, particularly the frogs, toads and newts. Now, we don't get toads in ponds this size, but we do get 2 kinds of newt. We get smooth newt and palmate newts, and we get frogs. They're laying their eggs or spawn around March, but they don't leave the water until August. So the fact that the ponds dried out meant that they were getting killed each year. So the volunteers had this idea. We found a number of these drums which have been used, according to the labels, for food waste, and they've been fly tipped. So what we did was we cut them in half, cleaned them out, and we've put them in what would be the ponds. So in winter the water level would be about nearly a foot higher than the top of this drum. What it means is that when the rest of the pond dries out, we've got this plastic tub which holds water as a refuge for some of those little creatures like the frogs, toads.
Can I just say, this rock here is for letting them climb out, because if we didn't have these rocks in and the tadpoles got into there, there's no way of escaping out, so we had to put rocks in, and the rocks go all the way to the bottom to allow them to climb out and get on.
Okay, this area is part of one of our freshwater features. When the nature reserve was created, we dug 3 ponds. Because the soil is a mixture of sand and gravels, it doesn't hold water. So all these ponds are lined with what we call bentonite clay liner, which comes on a big roll-line carpet, and we roll it out and cross over until we've got full seal. That's just to the rear of the Callan estate. That's called Throslock Wood. The name Throslock comes from throstle, which is an old word, a Saxon word I believe, for song thrush. It's basically a round hill, but in the middle it's got a bald patch, a bit like myself. And that clearing, until about 40 years ago, was used for allotments, but again they've become abandoned. There are quite a few indicators that allotments were once there. There's currant bushes, there's lots of raspberries, there are a few ornamental flowers that you wouldn't expect to find out in the wild, and that's an area where we've possibly got projects for the future that might link in with community growing schemes. We've also got a large orchard over here as well, about 45 apple trees, all of a variety called Golden Spire, which was a type of apple that was originally cultivated in Lancashire in the late 1800s and then became popular as a cider variety, so it's grown quite extensively in the southwest in the sort of cider growing, apple growing areas, but that's a variety that was made in Lancashire.
This is a project we did with 1 or 2 of the volunteers, whereby in order to get the wild flowers to grow through, we cut all the grass, but we don't leave the grass on the land. We rake the grass off to stop it fertilising the land, to allow the wildflowers to come through. And as you can see, wildflower meadow. We had a lot of volunteers on this terrace, and it seems to work quite well, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's patches of ragged robin coming up. I can see some cuckoo flower, which is a food plant of a butterfly, orange-tipped butterfly. There was even a couple of snake's head fritillary, which is a rather rare flower, came up in here last year. But I have a feeling that someone may have planted those.
But the theory behind it all was, you make the ground less fertile by raking away the grass that you've cut in order to let the wildflowers come through, because if the ground's too fertile, the wildflowers don't come through.
That's right.
So this is a little garden that the volunteers have set up, mainly me. It's like a tribute to my mum, this. She died 6 months ago, and we planted donations of seeds, poppy seeds and other wildflower seeds all along here. There's like a little remembrance, and these plants have been donated by volunteers for the entrance to the site, to make the site more attractive and welcoming to people. And as volunteers, what we get out of it is plenty of fresh air, plenty of exercise, and at the end of the day, if you play football, at the end of the day you either win or lose, but down here, if you do any work, you've got something to look at and see the fruits of your labour. The steps that the volunteers cleared over there, where the bikes come down to get to the gull wheel, is fantastic. And you can step back after looking at the work that you've done and see that you've contributed to improving the area and done something worthwhile.